Some stories leave behind scars on the heart of entire villages. Scars that cannot be erased, only remembered. This is one such story. A story about a woman who came as a healer, but left behind the curse of betrayal. A story that the people of this village still whisper about. Lanti Kirdaar. I still remember the day she arrived. A young lady doctor, freshly appointed by the government, sent to this remote village clinic. For the villagers, especially the women, her presence felt like a blessing. They were simple, innocent souls. They trusted anyone who wore the white coat. At first, she was greeted with respect. The village men bowed. The women prayed for her success. And every mother thought, at last, someone will care for our daughters and our sisters. But time has a way of revealing the truth. The first whispers were faint. Women returning from the clinic looked disturbed. Some avoided eye contact. Others never spoke at all. Soon, strange rumors spread that the doctor had no shame, that she did things behind those clinic doors that broke every boundary of morality. But these were village women, innocent, uneducated, afraid. They had no words to describe what they had endured. Instead, they stayed silent. Silent, but broken. As weeks passed, the respect she once had turned into suspicion. The same villagers who once greeted her with warmth now avoided her eyes. Some even cursed under their breath when her name was mentioned. But still, no one dared confront her. After all, she was a doctor. And in their minds, a doctor meant authority, knowledge, power. I watched the shift carefully. I knew something was wrong. Something rotten was festering behind those closed doors of the clinic. Then, one night changed everything. It was stormy, the kind of night when winds shake the windows and shadows stretch long across the village streets. And in that silence, one truth began to unfold in my mind. This was no ordinary death. This was a crime born not in one night, but from a life of sin. Safdar closes Part 1 with suspense. And so began my investigation, a case that would take me deep into the shadows of betrayal, exploitation, and revenge. This was not just the death of a woman. This was the exposure of a cursed soul. The village called her doctor, but history remembers her as nothing more than the arrival and the whispering shadows. A dead body tells a story, sometimes louder than the living ever can. That night, as I looked at the lifeless figure of the doctor, I knew this wasn't just death. This was punishment. But who delivered it remained hidden in shadows. The storm outside rattled the wooden shutters of the clinic as I stepped closer. Her body was twisted on the cold floor. One arm stretched toward the bed, the other bent unnaturally under her chest. Her hair, scattered wildly, stuck to her face as if she had fought desperately in her final moments. Blood had soaked into the matting beneath her. Not a pool, but enough to show violence. Her lips bore a faint bruise as if silenced mid-scream. The room itself looked disturbed. Drawers pulled open, a chair knocked over. A glass shattered near the table. This was no quiet death. This was a struggle. I studied the details carefully. No forced entry, no broken lock. Whoever came inside, she let them in. That meant one thing. The killer was not a stranger. The killer was someone she knew. Or perhaps someone she trusted. Behind me, the murmurs of the villagers grew louder. Some cursed her name. Others argued She destroyed our women's dignity. She ruined families. Allah finally punished her. But punishment from God is one thing. Murder is another. And my duty was clear: to separate rumor from truth. The police constables moved uneasily, watching the angry crowd outside. They knew, as I did, that this case could ignite the whole village. For every woman who had been wronged by her, there was now a motive. Dozens of possible killers, dozens of silent witnesses. I crouched near the body. There was a faint cut on her neck. Not deep enough to kill, but there were bruises on her wrists. Signs of restraint, signs of someone holding her down. And then I noticed something strange. Her left hand clutched a small piece of cloth, not from her dress. Something darker, a torn piece of fabric, as if she had grabbed her attacker in her last desperate attempt to fight. Evidence. The dead was speaking to me. But evidence alone cannot tell motives. For that, I had to open the village's darkest secrets. The doctor's death was not just the end of a woman. It was the beginning of a storm that would tear apart the lives of many, expose sins hidden for years, and force the truth to the surface. In this village, everyone knew her, and in this village, everyone now had a reason to want her dead. But only one hand delivered the final blow. The question was, whose? The dead woman lay silent, but the living, they carried the truth in their trembling voices, in their restless eyes, in their unfinished lies. My job was to pull it all out, piece by piece, like pulling thorns buried deep in flesh. The clinic had been sealed. The villagers waited outside, whispering, arguing, praying. Inside, I sat across from the first woman, called for questioning. She was young, no more than 20. Her eyes were swollen, red from weeping, but not for the dead doctor. No. Her tears carried another story. I asked her simple questions and watched her hands tremble. Finally, with a trembling voice, she said, "She ruined my home. She gave me wrong medicines, told me things that made me fight with my husband. She wanted me to be against him. And I was so foolish." Her confession revealed the doctor's manipulations. She wasn't just treating bodies, she was poisoning minds. One by one, the women came, each story darker than the last. She gave me herbs that made me ill. She took money, but never treated my pain. She told me to hide things from my husband. She asked me to meet men secretly. The room grew colder with each testimony. The doctor was not a healer. She was a destroyer, a spider weaving webs to trap innocent women in her games. And now that spider had been crushed, but I wasn't satisfied. Anger gives motive, but anger doesn't always kill. I needed something sharper, something that pointed directly to the murderer. That's when I met the old midwife of the village. Her face was lined with age, her eyes sharp like a hawk. She looked at me and said quietly, "Malik Sahib, she had enemies, yes. But there was one who hated her more than anyone else. A man, not a woman." I leaned forward. "A man? Who?" She lowered her voice, glancing around as if shadows themselves could hear. "Rashid, the carpenter. His wife suffered at the doctor's hands, and when she died, Rashid swore he would take revenge." The puzzle was shifting. All along, I had listened to the women, but now the thread pulled me toward the men. A husband broken, a vow of revenge. Could Rashid's rage have finally exploded into murder? That night, I went to Rashid's house. The air was heavy, the silence suffocating. He sat in the corner, eyes bloodshot, hands rough from work, but trembling ever so slightly. When I mentioned the doctor's name, his face hardened, but his words were soft, calculated. Yes, I hated her. Yes, I wished her dead. But I did not kill her, Malik Sahib. I was not there. Ask anyone. I was at the mosque at the time of her death. His alibi sounded strong. Too strong. Almost rehearsed. And then I noticed his shirt cuff. Frayed. Torn. Dark stains hidden under the fold. The same kind of fabric I had seen clutched in the doctor's dead hand. The dead never lies, and she had grabbed her killer, even as life slipped from her veins. Rashid's shirt was her final testimony, but would it be enough to break him? Or was there yet another twist hiding in the shadows? A torn shirt, a stain that looked too much like dried blood, a woman's last breath, clinging to a shred of fabric, and a man swearing innocence with words rehearsed too well. Rashid thought he could escape, but the dead never allows the guilty to sleep. I ordered Rashid to be taken into custody. The villagers gathered outside, their torches flickering in the night. Whispers spread like wildfire. Rashid did it. He killed her. The cursed doctor has met her fate. But my heart remained unsettled. Something was wrong. Yes, Rashid had motive. Yes, his shirt told a story. But still, his eyes, there was grief in them. Real grief. Not for the doctor, for something else. I pressed him harder. Rashid, your shirt was in her hand. Why? Tell me the truth. He broke down, sweat on his brow, his voice trembling. I went to her clinic that night, not to kill her, to beg her, to stop ruining the women of our village. She laughed in my face. She insulted me. She said my wife's death was her own fault, that she was weak. I lost my temper. I grabbed her arm. She scratched me and tore my sleeve. I pushed her away and left. That's all. I swear on my wife's grave. That's all I did. If he was telling the truth, then Rashid wasn't the killer. But then, who? The room fell into silence, except for the sound of my own thoughts, racing through every testimony, every whisper I had heard. That's when I remembered the midwife, her sharp eyes, her too specific warning, and her strange eagerness to point me toward Rashid. Why had she been so ready to give me his name? I returned to her house. She sat in the corner, grinding herbs in a stone bowl. Her hands shook when she saw me. I didn't waste time. I placed the doctor's broken bangle on the table, found in the midwife's courtyard, hidden under dry leaves. Her face drained of color. Her lips quivered. And finally, the dam broke. Yes, I killed her, she cried, her voice echoing through the night. She was destroying our daughters, our homes, our honor. I begged her to stop. She only laughed, said this village was full of fools. That night, I went to her. We argued. She tried to push me out, but I struck her. I struck her again until she stopped breathing. The truth was out. It wasn't a man blinded by revenge. It wasn't an innocent villager caught in the wrong place. It was the midwife, the woman who had delivered life for decades, who had now delivered death with her own hands. The villagers gasped as I led her away. Some wept, some nodded in grim agreement. Justice had been done. But the taste of it was bitter. Because the truth was this: the doctor was guilty of sins that poisoned hearts and homes. But the midwife, she had become the executioner. Two cursed characters, locked in a dance of destruction. And in the end, both paid the price. Every village has its secrets. Some hide in shadows, some bleed in silence, and some, like this one, end in blood on a healer's hands. The cursed character is gone, but her story will haunt this village forever.